Yeah. You ready?
I'd like to call a special public safety meeting to order, please. Resolution number 328-2024, authorization to accept the grant award.
Move it. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Finance, Jim?
Yes, resolution number 328.24.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 329.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 330.
Move it.
Second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 331/2024.
Move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And resolution number 332/2024.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Adjourn,
So moved.
Second. Third.
all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, in the interest of time, we've got a couple of presentations that we would like to make. And I'd like to have the supervisors who represent the Shawnee School District come up front, as well as Gil Howard III and his parents. We have a special guest here tonight that we want to honor because of his accomplishments over the last several years. He's done Columbia County very proud. He's over the Conoco School District. And we have a special token that Supervisor Wolf is going to read.
Yeah. The Columbia County Board of Supervisors recognizes Neil L. Howard III for his outstanding accomplishments in track and field. State championships, 8, 400-meter hurdles, 3, 110-meter hurdles, 1, long jump, 1, pole vault, 3. State records, 4, Division II 400-meter hurdles, 51.91 seconds, pole vault, 17 feet, 1.25 inches. Whoa. Indoor pentathlon, 3,881 points. Decathlon, 7,448 points. In decathlon, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and overall state record holder awarded the 2024 Track Athlete of the Year by Gatorade. National Championships. Indoor pentathlon 2024. Outdoor decathlon 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024.
Those ones that they want
You still have time. Hold on. Set Hayward Field Decathlon facility record in 2024 with 7,448 points. Presented August 14th, 2024 at the Board of Supervisors full board meeting. Here it is.
Oh, yeah.
I squeeze in.
Hey, 8, 1, 2, 3. And one more. Thank you, guys.
You going first again? So. Wisconsin comes to the board next week. It's not like it's a week. Yeah, that's great.
Make us proud of the Olympics.
See you in 4 years.
Now I'd like to have the supervisors representing the Chatham School District come up front, and I got Supervisor Lugoni who's gonna read. Come on, boys. Come on, come in here.
Glad you guys got some together, looked good down in, game that night.
The Columbia County Board of Supervisors recognizes the Chatham Central School Boys Baseball Team for their hard work and dedication in becoming the 2024 New York State Class C champions, presented August 14th, 2024 at the Board of Supervisors full board meeting.
And I have an award to read to the Pater Familias, Coach Phelps. A lot of multisyllabic words in here, everyone, so bear with me. This is a certificate of recognition awarded to Coach Scott Stelz. Whereas Coach Stelz of Chatham, New York has demonstrated exceptional leadership, dedication, and expertise in the sport of baseball. And whereas his outstanding coaching abilities and commitment to his players have earned him the prestigious title of the 2024 American Baseball Coaches Association, ATEC, High School Division III Coach of the Year. Coach Stelz's passion for the game and his ability to inspire and develop the skills of his players have made a significant impact on the sport and his community and beyond. On behalf of the Columbia County Board of Supervisors, this certificate of recognition is presented to Scott Stelz, the 2024 American Baseball Coaches Association, ATEC, High School Division III Regional Coach of the Year. In appreciation thereof, this certificate is given under Matt Morrell's Privy Seal of the Columbia County Board of Supervisors at the County Office Building in Hudson, New York, this 13th day of August, 2024.
Congratulations. Glad you guys were able to make it. I know it's vacation time. Nice job. Congrats, guys. Congratulations. You guys all make it down to the stadium?
Well done, gentlemen, well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That,
I think they're going to the White House now.
You're first on their list.
Yes.
football.
Round that.
Yours is not.
He does, he takes it off.
Let's call the full board meeting to order. Please rise for the silent prayer followed by the salute of the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to request the clerk call the roll.
MacArthur,
Here.
Weigelt.
Here.
Holmes.
Here.
Simmons.
Here.
Sacks.
Here.
Adams. Here. Wolf.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Riley.
President, Madam Clerk.
Eldridge.
Here.
Pelsley.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Ligonia.
Here.
Cousin.
Here.
Mia.
Here.
Chunitas.
Here.
Mussman. Here. Scalera.
Here.
Guzzi.
Here.
Boltling.
Here.
Morel.
Here.
Knott.
Here.
Skoda. 196 present, 4 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to open the public hearing, on the Columbia Green Community College 2024-2025 budget. And I'd like to ask the clerk to read the notice.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held before the Columbia County Board of Supervisors in the Board of Supervisors chamber located at 401 State Street, Hudson, New York, 12534 on Wednesday, August 14th at 7 p.m. Thereof concerning the proposed 2024-2025 operating budget of the Columbia Green Community College. At such time and place, all persons interested in the matter, subject matter, will be heard concerning the same. Dated August 1st, Hudson, New York. Kelly S. Cotero, Clerk of the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Are there any comments from supervisors? Any comments from the public? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing and we'll vote on this regarding other resolutions. I'd like the motion to pay the bills, accept the treasurer's report, and file the minutes within the clerk's office.
So moved.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have a few proclamations. One is for Recovery Month, September. And I believe Supervisor Adams is going to read that proclamation. And Supervisor, or not Supervisor, Director Almasi, could you come up?
Chairman, if it's okay, I'd like to ask Danielle Hoteling, the Executive Director of Reentry Columbia, to join me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
September is National Recovery Month, whereas National Recovery Month, observed each September, serves to educate and raise awareness about the daily achievements of millions of Americans who demonstrate that recovery from a substance use disorder, as well as mental health disorders, is both possible and attainable. And whereas substance use and mental health disorders impact communities across the nation, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, financial means, or religion. With dedication and support, individuals with these disorders can lead healthy and fulfilling lives in recovery. This September National Recovery Month emphasizes celebrating their recovery journey, understanding that prevention works, treatment is effective, and the importance of community. Whereas substance use disorder, commonly referred to as addiction, is a treatable mental health disorder, misconceptions about it have led to detrimental stigmas that often discourage individuals from seeking necessary treatment. By addressing substance use disorders with the same seriousness as other medical conditions and focusing on prevention, harm reduction, and treatment, recovery is possible. And whereas the overdose crisis continues to inflict profound harm on our friends, families, neighbors, and colleagues. In 2023, the United States witnessed an estimated 107,543 drug overdose deaths. This crisis remains a significant challenge for our communities. And whereas in New York State, the number of overdose deaths rose to 5,337 in the past year, with more than half of these occurring outside of New York City. In Columbia County alone, there have been 64 overdose deaths since 2019. And whereas National Recovery Month is dedicated to supporting and improving the lives of those affected by substance use and mental health disorders by raising awareness and educating communities about prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery resources. Therefore, the Columbia County Board of Supervisors invites all citizens of Columbia County to join in recognizing and supporting September as National Recovery Month. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Matt B. Morrell, do hereby proclaim this month of September as National Recovery Month in Columbia County, New York. Thank you for all the work you do. We really, really appreciate it.
Supervisor Knott is going to read a proclamation regarding overdose awareness day.
Thank you. I have the honor to read this. Whereas Overdose Awareness Day is internationally recognized on August 31st each year to raise awareness of drug overdoses, reduce the stigma of drug-related deaths, acknowledge the grief felt by families and friends by remembering those who have died or had a permanent injury as a result of a drug overdose. Whereas the loss of precious lives due to overdose continues to be a significant public health crisis, and whereas it is crucial to raise awareness about overdose prevention, treatment, and support for those affected by substance abuse disorders. And whereas Overdose Awareness Day provides an opportunity to honor the memory of those who have lost their lives to overdose and to express solidarity with their loved ones. And whereas education and compassion outreach are essential in combating stigma and promoting understanding around issues related to substance abuse. And whereas an estimated 82.7 million individuals have lost someone they know to a fatal drug overdose, 48.9 million adults, the person they knew who died of an overdose was a family member or close friends. Whereas overdose deaths have continued to rise, resulting in 5,337 deaths in New York State, over half of which occurred outside of New York City, 64 of which were Columbia County residents. I'm not repeating everything. Whereas in 2023, 20% of the overdose deaths in Columbia County occurred among people under 30 years old, while half of the deaths, 54%, occurred in people aged 30 to 49 years old, and 20% of the deaths occurred among people in their 50s. And whereas substance abuse disorder touches people of all backgrounds, despite race, religion, education, social class, people of all walks of life have suffered from substance abuse or known someone who has. And whereas an overdose is the leading cause of death for persons under the age of 50, and in a 12-month time frame ending in November of 2021, there were over 106,850 drug overdose deaths, with the number of deaths doubling in the past 6 years. And whereas the people who suffer from substance abuse disorder are mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, and friends to many, and it is up to the community to make strides to reduce the stigma associated with substance abuse disorder and bring about support and healing. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Matt B. Morrell, do hereby recognize August 31st as National Overdose Awareness Day in the County of Columbia. I urge all citizens to observe this day by reflecting on the devastating impact of overdoses in our community, supporting initiatives that promote harm reduction, and advocating for accessible and effective treatment options. Together, let us work towards a society where every individual struggling with substance abuse receives the support and the person-centered care that they deserve.
There you go. Ready? One more. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Okay, next, I'd like to have Chris Brown, the housing coordinator for CEDC, come up and do a housing presentation.
I do have a PowerPoint, but as a happy circumstance, I have exactly as many copies as there are supervisors and members of the public. I'd like to follow along at home. That's the one.
We got him.
Oh, did they not make their way down? It's been a while since classes, right? Yeah.
Doug just set up the end of the road, so we'll just pass it down.
All right, so while that gets set up, just to give a little context for what I'll be going over tonight. As you know, the Housing Task Force was assembled in late 2022 as a result of the Columbia County Housing Brief prepared by Pattern of Progress and the Columbia County Housing Forum that was held that year as well. So we'll go through the recommendations that came out of that forum and the brief, what the task force has been up to, and I'll update some of the the key measurable statistics that we rely on when we talk about housing policy at the county level. And in task force meetings. I will try to be quick and informative. I've been told I speak very quickly, so if you get lost, everything I'm about to say, for the most part, is right in your packet. Just some refresher terms while that gets up. Only two. I just want to make sure that everyone understands what these terms are. This is review for most folks, which is a level setting. AMI means area median income. This is something that the Department of Housing and Urban Development develops and updates every single year. It's county-wide. So in Columbia County, the AMI is the same in Hudson as it is in Clobber, as it is in Canaan. It's the same AMI across the county. No individual town has their own AMI. They have their own median income, but not their own area median income. Why we care about that number, most housing programs that are subsidies, programs, they're usually tied to a certain percentage of area median income. 80% is the most typical breakpoint for what they call affordable housing. 80% to 120% has traditionally been called workforce housing. I am one of those people that does not make a difference. I don't make a distinction between workforce housing and affordable housing because the people who live in affordable housing are also part of the workforce. I'll keep vamping. Right now, as of March of this year, Columbia County's area median income, the baseline is a household of 4. That's always the key rubric that they use. That's $106,400. That was about a 9% increase from 2023 to 2024. The increase from 22 to 23 was about 18%. So we had almost a 20% jump in area median income. What has not jumped in that same time are average wages. They've gone up a little bit. Renter wages have actually gone down. So if you're a renter in Columbia County, you're actually earning less in real dollars now than you were even just last year or the year before that. Average wages have gone up about 6%, but again, the median income has jumped 18% and then again 9%. The other one I want to go over is housing cost burden, the 30% rule. So the 30% rule basically says that you should spend no more than 30% of your gross monthly income on housing, and that's everything. So that's your mortgage, your rent, either of those, all your housing costs, all the utilities, your insurance. This is a number that is subject to some controversy at some levels of housing practitioners. This was developed in the 60s, right around the same time as fair housing. It was updated in 1980, and it was 25% originally. They updated 30% in 1980. Hasn't been touched since. What's happened in that time is that almost everyone that's looking for a home has a student loan. Car payments are now, on average, nationwide, this is a real number, $750 a month for an average car payment. So the kind of incidental expenses that homeowners and renters have in any given month have expanded dramatically, and this number has remained unchanged. But it's what we've got, so it's what we use.
Oops, a little ahead of me. That's
That's
okay.
So this is just a real kind of high level, this is what I'm calling the housing snapshot. So from 2018 to 2023, obviously we know what happened kind of in the middle of those years. We had a black swan event, what economists call an exogenous shock for the local market. Our our median home sale price is almost doubled, depending on the time of year that you look at. So end of year, we've had an 88% increase between 2018 and 2023. If you pull out a given month from that year, it's closer to 100. We were looking at one today, it was 93%. So median home sales prices have nearly doubled. Over that same span, we've lost more than half of our available housing stock. In 2018, we had 648 homes for sale at the end of the year. Last year, we had 276 homes for sale. And again, those homes at the end of last year had a median home of $450,000. The other thing that's changed for the first time in Columbia County's history, more than half of the rental population now falls into the housing cost burden category. So those folks are paying more than 30% of their gross monthly income on rent. We also have about 32% of our renters who are severely housing cost burden, which means they're paying more than 50% of their gross monthly income on rent. I'm going to do a lot of leaning on some pattern for progress data. This next slide is from one of their People on the Move reports. Pattern for Progress puts out so many reports that it's actually difficult to keep up with them. This one was really interesting. So this is an excerpt or a screenshot from a report that looked at household incomes coming into the counties in their service area. We're at the very north end. They serve 9 counties all the way down to Putnam County. So this was inflow and outflow of household incomes. So if you look historically, we were almost at a 1-for-1. It was fairly close, within a few percentage points. Right around the time when COVID hit, and we don't have numbers for 21 and 22 yet, but around the time of COVID hit, it turned into a 2-to-1. So for every dollar of household income that left the county, $2 came in. Obviously, that has an effect on the market. The other thing that's not reflected in here are the age demographics of people moving in and out of the county. Between 2010 and 2022, we lost about 3,000 folks between the ages of 25 and 54, traditionally your labor market. And we added 5,200 people, 55 and up. So we replaced a bunch of our labor market with a 1.2 ratio of semi-retired and retired folks. And obviously a lot of the household income is reflected by that as well. The next page is from the Department of Labor statistics. I just pulled this up myself. This is not pattern, this is me. These are our top 7 employment sectors throughout Columbia County, and they're traditionally the same year by year. These don't fluctuate too much, which ones are in the top 7. But these top 7 sectors represent 74% of all the total jobs in the county. These bottom 4, which represent 52% of all the jobs in the county, all of those are below 80% of area median income, which is where you hit that affordable threshold. The dollar amounts to show you how far below or above they are. The place that you don't want to be are the folks in construction who are just a little bit above AMI. So you earn just a little bit too much to take advantage of a bunch of different subsidy programs from the state and the federal government, but not enough where you don't actually need the help. It's very similar to Medicare, how we've got the donut hole in Medicare. There are a lot of folks out there. United Way calls these people ALICE, asset limited income constrained. So these are people that are working. A lot of them do have some assets, but not a lot of real estate, not a lot of cars, boats, things like that. And they're working, but they make a little bit too much money to get any sort of assistance, but not enough to really make ends meet in a realistic way. Oh, one note that's not in here, Chris Nardone mentioned this at the most recent Economic Development Committee meeting. Chris does workforce development for Columbia and Greene County. They did an audit, well, they didn't do an audit, but one of their consultants did an audit of all the posted jobs in Columbia County right now. There are 900 about publicly posted jobs, and they looked at the median salary for those listings. Median wage, it came out at $35.14, which on an annual basis at 40 hours a week works out to a little over $73,000, which is just a sliver below 100% of the area median income for one person. So housing forum recommendations from the 2022 forum. Create a countywide housing task force. Check. Thank you. Hire and manage a housing development coordinator. Really, thank you. Check. Develop a county infrastructure master plan. We're making moves there. That's going to require a little bit more funding than the state currently has available. So we're looking at some potential other programs just to get an idea of where can you build in the county, how much can you build in those places where you can build. And then the last one is sponsor and or promote a countywide nonprofit organization such as the Housing Trust or Community Land Trust. There is a Community Land Trust. CEDC has applied for, CEDC has been the fiscal sponsor for a couple of grants that the CLT has applied for. Community Land Trust, I don't want to get into it. Community Land Trust basically can create perpetual affordable housing through mechanisms that are actually fairly simple. And these types of organizations are not new. They've been around for quite some time. And we've also created a land bank. So thank you to the Board of Supervisors again, and all my board members on the land bank, and my Housing Task Force chairs, Supervisors Adams and Knott. The land bank has been meeting since May. We did have an application in for our operational funding, not capital funding, so you can't purchase properties or rehab properties with this funding. That's been approved, so we're awaiting that funding. And there's an additional open round of funding where we actually can apply for capital grant that actually can purchase properties, rehab properties. And I will find out, Michelle Tulip will be upset about this, the Trillium Community Land Trust received its 501c3 designation as of today. We just got a letter in the mail. So the Columbia County response to those forum recommendations. I'm going to go through this timeline really quickly. Much of this is a review. We established a task force, hired a housing development coordinator, broke the task force up into committees. CEDC submitted the grant on behalf of Trillium CLT, which is now an official 501c3. The next thing was to create a land bank. And again, thank you to the board for helping that along. We got one of the last 4 or 5 land banks that they're going to allow to be created in the state. It was a bit of a bet that paid off in the wake of the Supreme Court decision last year that affects how foreclosures and foreclosure sales more specifically are handled. We weren't really sure what was going to happen with land banks. New York put 4 times as much money in this year's budget as it did last year's, so they believe in land banks as much as we did. So the land bank received all its approvals, got its final approval, incorporates the ADU grant application, which hopefully this is not news to anyone in this room, I hope. We just had our kickoff event last Thursday, incredibly well attended. We had about 80 people in the room, 15 people online. It was standing room only over at Columbia Green Community College. 20 of our 23 municipalities are able to participate in this. Taconic recently passed their ADU ordinance, so if there are future rounds, they'll be able to participate in those. Fingers crossed that Hudson will pass one as well pretty soon. And then the village of Laisha is the last one. Kind of the competitive advantage that the towns or in the village and the city, there's one of each, the competitive advantage that those residents have, they know what the program looks like on day one. So if there was a future round of this that they're eligible for, they'll have about a year's worth of advance notice what actually goes into the program. One of the reasons that we chased that specific grant in rural counties, especially a county as rural as Columbia, the easiest way to build is to build where there are already buildings. ADUs are the gentlest density you could possibly add to any community. You've got a single family home, you add a much smaller unit on that property. The other grants that we're going after, which are on the next page. So down at the bottom, we've got submit grant applications for mobile and manufactured home replacement program. There are actually 2 of those. One is a $1.7 million grant that replaces out-of-date manufactured homes. This is housing preservation. Manufactured homes, the key word in that phrase is homes. So these are homes that largely were built before HUD had regulations for how manufactured homes are built. They tend to deteriorate a little bit quicker than the newer ones. So the replacement program is a 1-for-1. Someone has a manufactured home, you take it out and you swap it. That's something that we are going to partner with Galvin. Galvin is the rural preservation company for all of Columbia County. One of the things that we wanted to do as a housing task force was to really activate the resources that we already had countywide. There were 2, right? There were Galvin Housing Resources, and then there was now the Columbia Green Habitat for Humanity. So we have partnerships with each of those, and I would be very remiss, if I didn't mention that our ADU program partner is very much in the room. REPCO has 40 plus years of nonprofit housing and community development experience throughout the Hudson Valley. It was our pleasure and our honor to be able to partner with them on relatively short notice. But they've done an amazing job. I think this was a pretty big lift for them, although they've been running the program in Ulster County for the past year. Adding 20 new communities to their portfolio it's pretty amazing that they were able to take that on. One of the other programs that we're going after is the vacant rental improvement program. Again, one of the easiest ways to add housing units in areas where it's difficult to build is just to rehab what you already have. So this is a program where $40 million are available statewide. None of those dollars are available in New York City. This is all for the rural areas, suburbs, upstate, central New York, western New York. Essentially, for any building that is 5 or fewer residential units, this program would apply for that. Private landlords will be able to apply to a local program, and then they'll be able to use those funds to rehab their buildings. There is a potential, we've been talking to New York State Homes and Community Renewal, who administers land bank program. There's a potential that land bank funds can be used to help leverage the vacant rental improvement program funds, since they're both on mission. Land banks were built to return vacant properties to productive use. That's exactly what this grant is for. And then the last grant that we'll be applying for are the land bank capital funds, which I mentioned earlier. For the big piece here, which I'm going to end with, if you're on the EDC, I apologize. This is probably the 8th time you've heard this in the past couple of months. Pro-housing communities. So what the state is requiring of communities, letter of intent, everyone has to send in a letter of intent. If you've hit certain building growth targets, you can just send in a letter of intent, they'll accept that, then they ask for your zoning data, your building permit data. If you've not hit those growth targets, you'll need to pass a resolution at the town or village level. And then they ask for your building permit data from the previous 5 years. What they're looking for, the threshold for passing a resolution or not, is if you've had an increase over the past 3 years of 1% or basically 0.33% per year. What that looks like countywide, we have roughly 25,000 housing units throughout the county. So if you do the percentages, it works out to fewer than 4 units per municipality per year. So obviously you're going to have some outliers, right? Hudson puts up 20 apartments. They just took care of 3 other municipalities worth of housing increases. So this isn't anything where the state's trying to come in and say, you've got to densify, you've got to put up these 40-unit buildings in every part of your county. They understand that that's not going to work for everyone. They've actually walked this back. The previous version of this, they wanted everyone north of New York City to have a 1% increase in their housing growth goals. All of the rural areas, that's a little bit too much, so they cut it down by 1/3. So again, it's about 4 units per year for the next 3 years. What it does not require, it's not going to require you to change any of your local zoning or planning permitting processes. It's not going to have you advocate for local review. I know that these were a lot of the pieces of pushback from last year's pro-housing compact, which was roundly defeated. What came out was the pro-housing communities instead. And the housing unit growth minimums are just goals. They're not mandatory. So it's not like if you don't meet these goals, you won't be able to still be pro-housing. Why you might want to be pro-housing, we knew that there were going to be some programs that required you to be pro-housing. There was a list. We've got this list here. There were some new programs that were added. Interestingly, some of the programs that require you to be pro-housing aren't housing programs. Many of these are economic development programs. Specifically, this new CFA program, the Capital Improvements Grant, that money cannot be spent on residential only projects. It has to be at least mixed use. So there are economic development programs hidden for paywall, I suppose, behind pro-housing now as well. We knew about those. What we weren't aware of until the grants started coming out, all of these programs under here, these don't require you to be a pro-housing community, but these are scored criteria in all of the grant applications, which basically means that you're at a disadvantage if you're going up against other towns or villages for competitive grants and they are pro-housing. So if anyone needs help with that, we are very available to assist. We are currently at 10 municipalities that have submitted letters of intent. Of those 10, 9 have been certified, which is still far and away. We're about twice the next closest in the capital region, which matters because a lot of these grants are divided by economic development regions. So the more communities you've got in your region or in your county, the more competitive any of our grants are going to be against the other areas in the region. That is all I've got. I'm open to questions if there are any questions.
What's the deadline for getting the pro-housing committee?
Rolling. Yeah, so each of those grant programs will have their own individual deadlines, but pro-housing community, it's open whenever you'd like to do it.
When does the vacant rental improvement program begin?
It's open to apply for now. The deadline is October. It's either October 2nd or 3rd. It's one of those two. So we've been canvassing some of the landlords throughout the county that we think might be able to benefit. There is a piece to it. You can only have a portfolio of, I believe, 20 total units. So whatever you own is capped out at 20, no matter where those units are. And then the individual project has to be 5 units or fewer.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 303 of 2024 to 317 of 2024 by Supervisor Dvorak.
Mr. Chairman, I offer these resolutions for adoption.
Second motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 318 of 2024 to 332 of 2024 by Supervisor McCarthy.
Mr. Chairman, I offer these resolutions for adoption.
And I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Do any supervisors have any business to bring to the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor, not.
if I could, I just wanted to thank, Chris Brown for his presentation tonight, and it's really been an honor to work with Chris when we started this housing task force. And I thought this is a pretty big, project for us to take on. How are we gonna make a difference? What are we gonna be able to get done? One of our first things was to hire somebody, and I think putting them in CEDC was a very good move. It's been a good position, but Chris himself has been wonderful to work with, and we've accomplished a lot of things. So thank you, Chris.
Any other supervisors? Okay, I have a couple of board appointments that I'm gonna make the chair appointments. I'm gonna appoint Helen Kozel to the Columbia County Industrial Development Agency. And also I'm gonna appoint Ryan Skoda as the Board of Supervisors representative on CEDC. He's replacing Rick Scalera, who just finished his step down. That's what happens when I don't- He's knowledgeable. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.